Common wisdom is to deload every once in a while to maximize your gains. Well, in this video, we're gonna take a closer look at some new deload science that might change our minds about taking that break from our training. Deloads are usually at the top of the recommendation list for many fitness experts to manage recovery. I myself definitely recommended deloads many times. Now, deloading itself is pretty simple. After training for a certain amount of weeks, you take a recovery or deload week by significantly reducing your training volume or intensity, or even stop training completely. Doing so should give us a big recovery boost to handle all the accumulated training stress and fatigue that could not be fully recovered from with just rest days in between your workout sessions. It has even been suggested that deloads can make us come back even stronger, or quote, resensitize our muscles to be primed for greater gains. But the question remains, are deloads actually proven to be beneficial? Unfortunately, a lot of the current evidence on deloads are either anecdotal or measured only mechanistic outcomes, like changes in anabolic signaling. That's not a bad thing, but it doesn't give us much information about real-world results with using deloads. For that, we just don't have a lot of compelling data. Well, at least not until recently. To our fortunes, a new study was recently published that did investigate the more common one-week deload strategy. In this study, 39 young resistance-trained men and women were randomly assigned to one of two 9-week training programs. In one program, called the traditional program, the participants trained for the entire 9 weeks without a recovery period. In the second program, the deload program, the participants divided their training to two 4-week blocks with a single, you guessed it, deload week slapped right in the middle. The deload itself was full training cessation, aka they stopped training entirely for that week. All participants performed the same 4-day upper-lower body split program, a program that the researchers considered as fairly high volume and should induce a good amount of fatigue. Multiple outcomes were measured, such as body composition, muscle thickness, muscle strength, power, and muscle endurance. And after the painstaking 9 weeks, the participants came out with some interesting developments. First, the participants did see noticeable improvements in muscle growth, and the improvements were similar between the two groups. In terms of muscle endurance and muscle power, both groups again saw improvements, but also again the improvements were similar. But this is where things take a little twist. Both groups once again did see improvements in strength for the isometric knee extension and 1RM squat, but the traditional group had better gains overall. For the 1RM squat specifically, the traditional group on average improved their 1RM by 4.5 kilograms more than the deload group. Overall, the findings suggest that deloading does not seem to improve nor worsen muscle growth, power, or endurance. However, compared to no deload, a deload does seem to worsen strength gains. These findings definitely caught the researchers by surprise, especially the findings on strength. They initially believed, as did I, that a deload would lead to greater improvements across the board. Also, the existence of any resensitization of muscle growth was not found. All of this then should seemingly lead us to believe that deloads are a waste of time. Well, let's back up our deload hating booties for 1 second, cause we do need to talk about them caveats. Yes, this study did show that 1 week of complete training cessation after 4 weeks of training doesn't seem to be all that useful. But it doesn't tell us anything about multiple deloads. Maybe one deload can't fully tell us the effects of fatigue accumulating over a much longer period of time. Instead of 9 weeks, things can be very different in 9 months or a year. This study also doesn't tell us about the other common deloading strategies that do not involve complete training cessation, but simply reduced training volume or intensity. Maybe a more active recovery can be more effective. Also, and this is a big one, what if deloading after just 4 weeks is too early? Virtually all participants in this study, including the ones that did not deload, reported that it felt unnecessary to take a break from training after completing their 9-week training trial. So chances are that a deload was also not necessary after just 4 weeks. That's a bit different from saying deloads are not effective. There are some other caveats as well, like the participants' training level, their age, and the training itself. All of these can play a role in the study's outcomes. Feel free to check out the full study in the link below if you want to learn more. But now, looking at everything as a whole, does this study truly show that deloads are actually useless? Well, if you follow this channel long enough, you would know that just one study cannot definitively show anything. But still, it is interesting that the study found that a deload had mostly no effect. But in this case, no effect can still be seen as a positive. Essentially, the deloading participants made similar gains outside of strength, but trained for one less week. So if you were concerned about losing some of your gains from taking a break once in a while, then good news, this study shows that your gains are likely fine. And since the participants did feel that a break wasn't needed after 9 weeks, then maybe that just means that a planned deload isn't the best way to go about it. Instead, perhaps using a more intuitive or flexible approach where you deload when you feel like you need to deload makes more sense. And finally, since this study is essentially the first of its kind, we can't completely pull the plug on deloads just yet until we get more studies, both replicating this current study and covering other deload strategies. As it stands, we may not be able to say that deloads are useless, but they may not be as useful as we originally believed. And that alone already goes quite against the grain. But let me know what you think. Anecdotally, I'm still a fan of deloading just because I do prefer a break here and there, but maybe I am just wasting a bit of my time, or it's just another excuse I have for why my squat numbers suck. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a fatiguing thumbs up and share it with your deload-loving friends. Subscribe for more. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to get your protein, which you should in deload.